welcome to day 3 of our 5-day series designed to help you sound better on the clarinet. My hope for you in all of this process is that you come out of it with some things that make your tone sound closer to your ideal tone right away. And on top of that, that you have some strategies that you can take with you for the next few weeks. Some of the things we've talked about make a difference right away. Some of them are really about you now knowing the systems that you can train your body with to really improve your tone significantly over the next few weeks. So it's so great to have you here live. I really appreciate it. And if you're watching the replay, hooray for you too. I just think there's a real synergy in this group of worldwide clarinetists coming together and all working on tone. We have many, many countries here. In fact, if you're watching live, please let me know where you're from. And today's subject is focusing on what we do with our mouth, our embouchure, our tongue position, and some of this will be basics. Some of this might be new to you. So my hope again is that I'll give you some exercises you can work on, and this is one of the major areas to help improve your tone. Yesterday we focused a lot on air support. If you haven't watched that, there is a replay available, and I really encourage you to also work on that because some of the exercises there, if you keep doing them, even by Sunday, you're going to hear an improvement, and that will help you be more knowledgeable when you're asking me questions. All right, I'm going to start by telling you kind of my basic concept of what we want to be aiming for with the shape of our mouth, which we call embouchure. I like to think of it as 3 steps, and in no particular order. Step 1 has to do with how much mouthpiece we put in our mouth. Now, I did talk about this on our very first day, and the basic concept here is the more mouthpiece we take, the more reed that can vibrate, but we do reach a point where it's too much and it squeaks, and very, very easy to find that point by just experimenting. So you do want to experiment with that. Now, there are 2 main styles of clarinet embouchure with regard to what we do with our top lip. Some people are trained to put their top teeth directly on the mouthpiece, and other people wrap their top lip over their top teeth, which is called a double lip embouchure. They are both standard practice for the clarinet. They're both very good. I was trained to do it with my teeth on the mouthpiece, and most of the time that is what I do. However, to be honest, I am experimenting more and more with double lip. And I remember hearing a masterclass with Ricardo Morales, who's one of the world's greatest clarinetists, and he teaches all of his students to play double lip, even though I don't believe he does it full-time himself. He definitely does some warm-ups and exercises with it. So that's something you can experiment. The advantage to rolling your top lip over, if you kind of do it as I'm doing and just try speaking, it sort of draws the muscles of the face into a natural, really nice shape for the clarinet. And it also even helps draw our tongue into the best place. So if you've never tried double lip, it will feel very strange. And if you bite at all, you're going to really feel it because our top lip is quite sensitive. But it might be worthwhile to add into your practice routine just a simple slow scale where you try double lip. I do have colleagues, Dr. Deborah Andrus comes to mind, who she uses double lip if she's playing gentle, soft, high altissimo things and she wants to sound really beautiful and smooth, sometimes in chamber orchestra. She'll have her tongue on more for the more robust, aggressive things, or with really fast articulation. So people are using it differently. Both are acceptable. All right, probably the most important parts for us to work on, whatever level you're at, especially though maybe if you're new to the clarinet, is what we do with our bottom lip and our chin. Everything that we do, our goal is to get the reed to vibrate like crazy on the clarinet. So our air is key to activating it, which we talked about yesterday. But also we want to make sure we're not muffling it. So the idea here is we want just the edge of our lip over our bottom teeth. And sometimes I'll have students just take 2 fingers and hold just the edge of the lip so we can still see a lot of the pink part of our lip here. And then with our other hand, pull it down. So I'm kind of anchoring it in place with my top finger and pulling it down. And I'd love for you to try that. When we do this, we're pulling all the blob away from the reed, and you can see this much better in profile. What you should see is a nice curve here. That's one of the hallmarks of a good clarinet embouchure. if we're not careful as we're putting the clarinet into our mouth, if we rest the reed on our bottom lip and then slide the mouthpiece in, we get a lot of flab and blob, and we might almost curve out instead of in. I highly encourage you to take a photo of yourself or have somebody just pick up their phone and take a picture of you from the side. And here's one of the things you want to look for, is that curve. Now, that's kind of step 2. So step 1 is we put enough mouthpiece in our mouth. Step 2, we're making sure we're pulling away. And if you've been putting too much lip over your teeth, you can just take something like a pencil, play an open G, and literally hold this down when you play. It's going to feel really weird. It might throw some other things off. Training exercise, though. So I don't know if you could hear that, but I started with it loose and flabby, and my tone was kind of airy. And when I pulled it down, clarity happened into my tone right away. For, I'd say, at least half of the people I know who start on clarinet, this is not a natural thing that your muscles know how to do. You literally have to train them. So by actually pulling it down with a finger holding it or a pencil holding it, sends a message to your brain, hey, we want to teach these muscles to do that. And you need to do it often and regularly. This is one area where I was a really slow learner. I had a fantastic clarinet teacher, Ted Owen. He played principal in the Detroit Symphony for many years, and I just wasn't getting it. And finally, I played in a school band. I think I was in grade 9. He said, how many times in band class does your clarinet go into your mouth? And I thought about it. We play a few measures, we stop, there's a rest. I said, probably 50 to 100. And he said, okay, every single time you're going to put it in your mouth, you need to pull it down first. So I would go. And after 1 week of doing that, I came in and he said, oh, you did it. Now, it was weak. I couldn't sustain it probably for more than 10 minutes, but needless to say, after a month or two, it became second nature. So that's what it took for me to learn this. Hopefully, you will not be as slow a learner as I was, and it'll come more naturally to you. Step 3 of our 3-step embouchure, and there are different schools of thought on this, but this works for me and most of my students, so I'll just encourage you to experiment with it. Again, it's whatever works for you that counts, but I like to think of the corners of my mouth wrapping in so that our embouchure looks fairly round. And one good way to get the feel of this, again, we're going to use 2 fingers. So a lot of today, you don't even need your clarinet. If I were to put 1 finger in the center of my bottom lip where the reed will sit, and I am trying to pull down here, for this exercise, we're going to take our other 2 fingers, and if I were just to wrap around and squeeze the tip of my finger, I want to actually literally wrap my bottom lip around that finger like this. So, and then try and have my mouth shaped in a clarinet embouchure. So the only thing that's weird here is when my bottom lip is really mushy, which I don't want to do for clarinet. But that movement, what we do now is we take our other hand away, and with just our mouth muscles, try and crush the sides of our finger. Ugh. This movement, this exercise, again, brings all of these muscles into the ideal shape. The only thing that's a bit off is my bottom lip, but it really helps us get the feel for the rest. So I want you to try it. You're crushing the sides of your finger. Ugh. And what it does to all of this, moving these corners in, is exactly what we want to do on clarinet. You can imagine that when you're playing, that you're going to crush the sides of your mouthpiece. All right, so how do you work on this? Step 1, you experiment with how much mouthpiece you have in your mouth. I covered that more in day 1. Step 2, you practice pulling this down, take photos from the side. Step 3, corners in. And when our corners are in, we can see a vertical muscle line here. And so when you're taking your photo from the side, you should also see that vertical muscle line along with your chin in. Those are things that will help you know if you have the right shape. All right, what we do inside our mouth is equally as important for good tone, and really important that you understand how it works. The shape of our tongue in our mouth has a huge influence on our tone. And in fact, when I post the replay for this, I'll post an interview I did with Dr. Carla Wallach, who did a fantastic study of what actually happens to your tongue when you play clarinet, and he studied it for different things. But here, I'm not an artist, so don't laugh too hard. This is you. You're bald. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. This is how our tongue likes to sit normally, at the bottom of our mouth as we're playing clarinet. If we're blowing with fantastic air, it comes up our narrow windpipe, and then we hit this big space, and our air slows down. For most classical clarinet sounds, which is what most concert bands will also emulate, here's what we want to do with our tongue. I'm redrawing it here. We want it to be higher up so that the air whooshes around that corner. We get that effect when we're saying he. Here's where it gets tricky. Just a moment ago, I told you that we want to focus on the corners of our mouth coming in. When we do that, if I were to speak, I'd probably be going, oh, oh. Our tongue drops into O. Our lips and tongue are not necessarily attached together. What we want is our tongue to say he, which if we saw from the side puts it high, and our lips to say O. So here's your practice routine. Say he, and then freeze that tongue and move the corners of your lips in. And you can do this when you're walking around the house, when you're on the bus, when you're driving in the car. He. Now it ends up sounding a bit like Hugh, but Hugh. That's what we want to practice. It has a drastic impact on our tone. Now, depending on what style of music you're playing, lowering your tongue will lower the pitch. And if you're doing jazzy stuff or klezmer stuff, we want to move our tongue around to get different effects. But I'll just say most of the time, especially if you're following a more classical tone, we want to train it to be high. If you have learned how to play a high C, that's the note I recommend you practice on, thumb register key. If not, you can do it on an open G. What I want you to try is hold that note and just imagine that you're saying he, I. I'm going to step away from my mic because this is going to sound bad. Which fun though, it's really fun. Sometimes it's fun to have permission to sound bad. I'm going to show you what it sounds like when I go from high to low. Putting on my, oh, love this device, my handy dandy BG sparkly crystal neck strap so that I can hold my clarinet with one hand and show you what I'm doing here. All right. So my hand here is going to be the X-ray machine to show you what I'm doing. And you'll hear my tone change when my tongue drops. Huge difference in my sound and pitch. So this is a fun one to do with some kind of tuner in hand. I probably would have seen the dial go almost a whole tone flat when I did that. If you're not sure if your tongue is in the right position, here's a little exercise. Have your tuner in hand, whatever tuner you have. If you don't have a tuner, there are many apps for it for the phone, probably for $3. You can get one that shows you if you're in tune or not. And if you're flat, the dial usually goes to the left. If you're sharp, it usually goes to the right. And here's the notes you can play. Play your high G to your A, to your B, to your C, just slowly. If your tongue is low, you'll see the dial, I'm not sure looking at my camera which way it goes flat, but it will go flatter and flatter. As I'm looking at it, it's this way, it'll go down. If you get more flat as you go up, odds are your tongue is too low, and that's a good tangible thing you can look at to try and just get your tongue a little higher. One of the best exercises I know of for helping you practice that. But even just going he, ah, e, even on an open G, you'll hear the tone get clearer when your tongue is high and usually airier and fuzzier when it's low. So those are some tangible exercises you can do involving the outside of your face and the inside of your face that all really affect your clarinet sound and how you want to sound. All right, so much time goes by so quickly. That's 15 minutes already, and I want to keep these trainings short. They are loaded with important things that I know are going to help you because it's helped myself, hundreds of my students, and so many clarinetists everywhere. So please work on these. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about gear, mouthpieces, clarinets, barrels, these other things that do influence our tone. Obviously, the most important thing is that you yourself are responsible for training your body to have the best habits to make good sound. But equipment is a factor. And the next day, we'll be talking a little bit more philosophical and deep about our concept of sound and how we can bring all of this stuff together so that you're really on the path to sounding the way that you want to sound. So appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I really hope to see you tomorrow. I'm back in the morning on Pacific time, and we'll be talking all about gear. It'll be a very good session, and I'm sure you'll have questions from that we'll follow up with on Sunday. Thank you so much for being in my community. So great to have you here. I'm going to sign off, and I'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Bye.